Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to another Crypto Maniacs podcast. A kind of an hour earlier today, and we have to say thank you to Task for going around my schedule. I have an appointment at 6 o'clock my time, so that's actually an hour. It's actually like an hour after we're going to stop the show now because of the time. So thank you, Task, for bending to my schedule, man. I appreciate you.
Hey man, that's just the type of guy I am. I'm a fucking saint. I mean, isn't that what you think of when you think when I say the name Taskmaster? You think instantly fucking sweetheart.
Well,
I mean, that's a peach.
well, uh,
That's
biblically,
okay. I baffled you. You can't even bullshit your way through it.
well, biblically, a taskmaster wasn't considered a very good human being in the olden days.
Well.
You didn't take your name from that, right? You weren't reading the book of Exodus and saying, I'm going to be like the Egyptian taskmasters. Was that?
No, that's a good conclusion. You when you said I wasn't reading the book of Exodus, you were spot on. I'm Catholic. I grew up Catholic. We don't read the freaking Bible. It's like, I mean, come on.
Oh,
if you want to find somebody, I mean, the Jews know the Bible better than the Catholics. I mean, we know nothing about it. I mean, it's nothing. We have no clue. We have our popisms and we have our all the things that have to do with the church, but the Bible thing,
yeah.
Why read that damn thing? What's the difference? It's we'll tell you. Well, you do realize a little church history that when my dad was a kid, the mass was not even in English, and the Bibles weren't in English. They were
Latin.
And obviously, if you went to Catholic school, you took Latin, but when you're 10 years old, you're not going to be proficient in Latin, especially since the damn language has been dead for 2,000 years. I mean, it's like, I took Latin in high school, and it's like, okay. I mean, it does help with crossword puzzles. I will.
Oh, definitely.
One side of that. So welcome to the Religious Maniac Show, where we speak everything religion, and this week we will attack the Catholics. And well, we did have one Catholic president. Of course, we shot him, but that's
Biden's Catholic.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And Pelosi, she's Catholic.
Well, she wasn't president.
Well, not president, but yeah.
No, we've had speakers and stuff, but I didn't know
the first one you had, you shot. So yeah.
Yeah, we shot him. 60 years later, we still don't know who shot him because the government won't release the records because.
So
we're supposed to believe Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy.
Sure he did. So we've gone from religion to conspiracy theories. I like where we're going with this show, man. This is a good one. I can tell this is going to be a
Well, it wasn't a conspiracy theory that Kennedy was shot. And it's not a conspiracy theory.
Right.
Later, I mean, Trump was going to release it. He didn't. He didn't get reelected. Biden said, "No, we're not going to release it." So, is it a conspiracy theory that Biden's Catholic? I don't know. Maybe that is. I don't know. But yeah, and it's no conspiracy theory that Biden administration and Elizabeth Warren don't like cryptocurrency. That's not a conspiracy.
Yeah, what did Warren Buffett say? He didn't call it. I saw Cal's thread the other day. He's like, "Hey, it's an improvement." He didn't call it rat poison. Now he called it a gambling token.
Yeah, I don't know. I responded to Cal's thread. I think it was Charlie Munger who called it rat poison, but yeah, he basically said it's a gambling token. He I don't know. I mean, Buffett doesn't understand technology, but then with Bitcoin, what technology is there really to understand? I mean, Taproot does hold some potential, but Bitcoin's very limited technologically. And this is something maxis don't want to acknowledge, that Bitcoin is for the most part just a financial chain.
Right.
It's financial transactions. It's like a bank ledger. And yeah, I know now they can store some very small NFTs on there. Um, and Taproot evidently opens up the door for maybe smart contracts and stuff like that. But it's the same. I did a series of videos over the last few days about CBDCs and why they're really not going to go anywhere. And my last video was time.
Mm.
You're in a technological race, and we have cryptocurrency out there in the wild versus CBDCs where they're still trying to plan and
Right.
design this stuff. And it's like, if you're not, I mean, Bank of Japan said they're not going to even decide before 2026. The Bank of England wants their CBDC out by 2030. It's like you're talking a lifetime from now technologically. And we have all these cryptocurrencies and all these crypto projects out in the wild, open to attack, just developing, expanding, doing their thing. And I question with Bitcoin, not leaving the monetary aspect aside, from a technological standpoint, are you racing against the clock with Bitcoin? Because I mean, we have, and this was a basis of my post this morning. I mean, Hive is far superior technologically, in terms of transaction time, in terms of one block irreversibility, in terms of half, which is a layer 2 integration into the database and allow for developers to build databases. You have your stable coin plus your value capture token. You have no transaction fees or no
Yeah.
direct transaction fees, I should say. I mean, all of this stuff, scalability is 1,000 times better on Hive compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a very secure network. I believe Bitcoin's beyond the 51% attack capability. I just think it's too centralized at this point. So, it is the proof of work chain that I don't think can be attacked.
Mm.
But okay, so you have the security, but what else do you have? And I
Right.
think that is a challenge. So, in that regard, from a technological standpoint, even though he doesn't understand technology, I could say Buffett might have a point.
Mm.
But, in terms of money's what people decide it is. I mean, that's
Yeah.
historically, I mean, there was a time, and I always tell people this. If you watch like a Game of Thrones or a show centered in that time period, notice what the royalty and the wealthy are eating off of. The peasants and the average person, they eat off wood plates and stuff like that. But
Mm.
notice what the wealthy. It's not gold.
Mm.
It's aluminum, because aluminum back then was the most valued metal.
Hmm.
If you took somebody from 600 years ago and brought them into this era, they'd be running around the side of the road, picking up all the cans. Like, how can you people throw this away? And
Yeah.
it's not that aluminum oxide was in abundant; it was, but before, the problem is it's not easy to separate. And until they developed the process to separate, aluminum was pure aluminum was a rare element. I mean, not a rare element; it was a rarity that you could utilize. Well, now we use it as beer cans and we throw it out the window or whatever. Um, it's abundant.
Or to
So
wrap our food in.
yeah, I mean, so that's where people have to realize, you know, it's like if you walked into Walmart with a $20 gold coin and went to pay with a $20 gold coin, the blue haired girl at the checkout counter would not take it. And there's a chance that her manager, who is, was the tight end on the football team, but he couldn't hack it, working for his brother's extermination company. So now he's a manager at Walmart, assistant manager. He wouldn't know what it is. Now, if you went to the bank and exchanged that gold coin for a $20 loonie or
Mm.
whatever they call it, then you could go in and take it. So that's one of the things people need to realize is the person at the other end has to agree and understand with what you're dealing in. And
Yeah.
so that's another challenge when you start to look at people with Bitcoin. It's like, well, what the hell is a Satoshi? How many Satoshi in a barrel of oil? How many
Mm.
Satoshi in a tuna fish sandwich? And how are you going to change 4 generations of people who are walking around the planet engaging in business and commerce, most of them who have an understanding of what a dollar is, and say, okay, well, now it's a Satoshi. I mean, that's like trying to get Americans to understand what the hell a kilometer is. We have no idea. Like,
2.4, isn't it? Or something like that.
I don't know. What the fuck's a kilometer? Shit.
Dude, did you ever work in retail ever?
Yeah.
I worked at a music store way back in the day. I was really
Well, it had to be way back in the day if it was a freaking music
right.
store.
Like these things don't exist anymore. For all the kids that are listening, you used to actually have to go to a store to buy your music. I know, crazy.
It was
I
actually on something, a disc.
Yeah, it was on it's
Or
discs or tapes or even this thing called a 12-inch. Like, wow, yeah.
how about reel to reel?
Reel to reel, 8 tracks. Let's go, man. Showing our age. No, the reason I bring that up is because I used to work retail at this music store, and you had to accept silver dollars in Canada. You had to as currency, and I'm pretty sure it still is. Like if you go up to a counter and you give them a silver dollar or a $5 coin or something, they treat it as money. And there was a guy who used to come in every week and buy all of his CDs with silver. That's what he did. And we had a little piece of paper underneath the cash register that showed us the exchange rate for the day, and we'd have to do all this stuff while we were cashing out. It was crazy, but it just what you were mentioning, it just brought back memories of my younger years. So,
yeah, and that's this is stuff that people overlook, and that's really why I think there's this misunderstanding about money, monetary history, uh, what's used as money, and it's Warren Buffett's a guy who understands money.
yeah.
I don't really honestly know his understanding of monetary history because he really hasn't talked about it. I presume he's read up on it, but he might not have. I mean, guy knows finance, but just because you know finance doesn't mean you understand money. Um, he understands banking, that's for sure, but he doesn't understand technology, and that's a major problem for his generation. And if you look, the baby boomers in the United States, John, money to them was banknotes and checks.
Right, checks.
When I got out of school, we had credit cards, we wrote checks, and this thing called debit cards were becoming popular. My daughter, it's a payment app. She doesn't, I mean, she has credit cards and debit cards, but she uses payment apps.
Mhm.
And, I know she knows how to write checks, but, who the hell writes checks?
Right.
Unless you have, a landlord who's just an individual that you rent a house from or a room. I mean, most things you go online to pay. That's how money's changed. And, I believe that one of the next evolutions of, we'll call it fintech, is cryptocurrency. And people are going to be paying, making payments with cryptocurrency. But I don't believe it's going to be with the value capture tokens. I think that's the stablecoin world.
Yeah.
And they'll try to sneak in CBDCs.
Of course they will. It's never can be. We can't have good things in this, can we? You can never have good things in crypto. There's always someone ruining things. So.
Well, I mean, governments, they're going to try to maintain their position, but I don't think they can compete. And people say, well, they can write the laws, they can ban stuff. Well, you're not playing in crypto. I'm sorry, it's just not happening.
Yeah.
To think crypto's getting banned is, to me, foolish.
Right.
The United States could try it, the EU could try it, but El Salvador is not going to take that. Venezuela is not going to take it. Cuba, Nigeria, Malaysia, all the countries that the United States and the West have beaten on, they're going to sit there and say, drop dead.
Do you think that's something that's going to like rear its ugly head? Let's say with all of the legislation and everything that America's trying to do. to like make it as uncrypto friendly as possible? Do you think countries like El Salvador, for example, are going to benefit from this? Like, like the countries that are really embracing it. Do you see that anytime soon?
I believe so, because I think what happens, crypto to me is a great equalizer. Whether you're looking at a populace against its own government, or you're looking at governments against and countries against other oppressive countries. And so I think when you look at some of these other countries like Venezuela or Brazil or El Salvador or Cuba or wherever it is, what it allows them to do potentially is to tap into a global economy forming around these cryptocurrencies, around these networks. And so if you have, let's say, Hive, we'll use that since we're kind of Hive biased here. If you have the Hive economy that starts to thrive globally, and the people in Venezuela or people in Cuba or El Salvador can tap into that, uh, they're no longer constricted by their local economy. And so now the country has further reach economically than it did before. Now, if you have a country that gets aggressive about trying to make it crypto friendly to attract the businesses that are related to crypto, that's just going to take them to even another level, because now you're going to bring in higher end talent. Now you're going to bring in businesses. Maybe you're going to create jobs, that type of thing. But even without that, you just have the ability to tap into these economies, and you create the on ramp and off ramp. I mean, that's the laughable thing about trying to ban Bitcoin. It's legal tender in El Salvador. And what's the other legal tender in El Salvador? The US dollar. So you tell me that El Salvador, it has to go from Bitcoin to US dollar. They got to be interchangeable. They're both legal tender. There's your on ramp and off ramp to Bitcoin. Everybody, other nation could ban it, and there's your on ramp and off ramp. I mean, obviously, if every other nation banned it, El Salvador couldn't stand up to the pressure. But the point being, with the division in the world, I mean, notice how friendly suddenly Russia came to crypto after U.S. sanctions. So, I mean, Russia was anti-crypto to its population. Now they're loosening things up. Now they're like, well, okay, we're passing mining legislation.
I saw that in threads today. What's up was putting she put something in the thread that was talking about the on ramp off ramp for Hive, and I was scratching my head on it, because I was like, how she's describing it is basically how I've been doing Hive transactions forever. Like if I sell Splinterlands cards, for example, I get it in Hive. To get Hive, I got to turn it into Litecoin. Then Litecoin, I got to flip it on another exchange and take it out via Litecoin. Like I've never been able to off ramp Hive. Was I missing something, or is this just kind of like
I don't. I mean, I never did. I never did it either.
right.
I did the same thing you did, um, because I would go through Coinbase. Coinbase doesn't carry Hive. So I have to get something to and from Coinbase. And I usually defaulted to Litecoin just because of the fees. So I mean, somebody said Bittrex. I didn't know Bittrex. I guess they were in the U.S., but I didn't even know about it. I always had to go through a vehicle currency to get, to Hive and back and forth. And I think that's probably the future.
Right.
But who cares? It's like, I don't care. It's like Starker always says, we need an HBD Bitcoin pool. If you got an HBD Bitcoin liquidity pool, then you can always get somewhere with Bitcoin, because they're not going to slam Bitcoin. So, as long as you have that, you have the ability to take your HBD, flip it for Bitcoin, and then move your Bitcoin to Coinbase or to wherever, and then flip that to your fiat, as long as the fiat conversion and those mechanisms are open.
Crazy. News, gossip, scandal. we had, and continuing to have, it was still an hour and a half before server clicks over. Uh, One of the better days uh, on CTPX today. Really crazy amounts of explore being generated, and the big number to me is that we've distributed 81,000 CTP tokens. Crazy. That's just a little tip of the hat for us, man, and everyone in CTPX, man. You guys rock. So that was my spam for CTPX. So yeah, it's a good day, man. Really good day for exploring. So I don't know what it is. Maybe all that effort that we've been putting into is starting to pay off. So which which is going to be, one of the topics I want to bring up, and you've mentioned this countless times, especially with some of the stuff we're building. This new the new formula for like being rewarded in a marketing environment, in an online business environment, is now not necessarily the results you get from promoting something, marketing something. It's actually going to be from using something. And it's funny because this is something that's been around for 20 years, this type of model, but now because it's on blockchain, it's starting to get a little bit more attractive, especially for me. I mean, I'm extremely bullish on that. Maybe just talk a little bit of, for those that might not have heard this before. What do we mean by, you're going to actually be rewarded for using this stuff marketing wise instead of like the results you're getting from them?
Well, in the past, you had a product, let's say an ebook, and you wanted to get people to your website to, you know, ultimately buy your ebook. And so the typical, and obviously you can speak more intelligently to this than I can, but, to give the rough framework, the idea is to use different tools online to try to get people to your website and ultimately get them to buy your ebook. And a lot of times you couldn't get them to your website to buy the ebook, so you try to get the email address. So then you use email marketing to try to develop a relationship, to try to get a rapport, or just to spam the shit out of them to try to get them to buy your ebook. And then there were different things like link exchanges. There were different websites that you could write, and that type of stuff, and write articles and film with your links and whatnot. Uh, and ultimately, everything was done to try to get people to buy your ebook. That's where you made your money. And you engaged in this other stuff as part of the process, but until you made the sale, no money. Well, when you look at what's taking place now, when you look at the link exchange of CTPX, which you do your explore, every hour there's a drawing for the CTP, the token, and every hour somebody is getting CTP. So by engaging in this, yes, you can put up your website. Yes, you can put up your website to buy your ebook. You can put up your link exchange. You can put up all that stuff. Or better yet, you can put up your Hive post, your blog post, your whatever. And if you are exploring, you are getting people to visit your pages, but you're also entered into the drawing.
Right.
And you look at Listeners, which was an email marketing, same type of situation. By engaging in the activity, you were being rewarded with the listener token. Again, now you're making money for taking the action, whether somebody buys your ebook or not. Now,
Right.
I'll go one step further with this process, which I haven't talked about, is when you are part of a community, when you hold the CTP token or when you hold Hive and you have these tokens that represent the valuation of the project or the ecosystem, then it's only to your benefit, even if you don't sell anything, even if you don't get any CTP tokens in terms of your exploring. The more successful CTPX is, the better it is for you if you have CTP, because that's going to enhance the value of the ecosystem, the CTP ecosystem, and it should, at a certain point, be reflected in the price of the token when the
Mm.
market wakes up. Uh, so there's so many different ways to benefit, where at the end of the day, buy my ebook could be just an added bonus. It's not the main focus anymore.
It it's something I've maintained for years, and especially in this type of environment, was that there had to be this intrinsic reason for you to use these things. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to use this so I can potentially get people to my site and they can buy my stuff. I mean, everyone's trying to make money online. Everyone's trying to build a business online. Everyone's trying to accumulate crypto online. Like, that's like the stupid simple answer to this stuff. I always said that you had to give people an actual reason to be there other than what everyone else is there for, if that makes sense. So for me, it was the stumble upon example. I used it because I absolutely loved it. I got an experience from being there. It was addictive almost. The more I used it, the better it got. The more content I saw, the more content I would print out, I would bookmark, I would engage with. And that's been my dream for developing these type of programs for 20 plus years. Like, well, not 20 years for the stumble upon stuff, but my desire was always, like, just like you said, the bonus is selling your ebook. That's just a bonus. The bonus is getting someone onto your mailing list. That's just a bonus. I want people there because they genuinely wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going to go spend an hour there. I'm going to enjoy myself because I'm having fun. I'm being rewarded. My community is there. That's always been my dream. And I think now, because of the blockchain and exactly what you laid out, where now the better CTBX does, the better CTP does. So it's in your best interest to hold this stuff and to buy it and then yada, yada, yada. You couldn't do that 20 years ago. 20 years ago, here was your reward. I'll give you a penny. That was your reward. Now it's like, no, it's actual ownership of something, and it's tradable, and it's on the markets, and there's communities behind it, and it's that, to me, is what's so exciting about this. And we're working on it. We're trying to get people fired up for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, what you're talking about is with blockchain, is it offers the potentiality to completely change business structures
Yeah.
and business models and rewrite them and offer incentivization in ways you never could before. Well, I mean, we had this discussion way back when about noise cash. And I
Right.
said, to me, noise cash is not that impressive because it's still the same model. Okay, they're paying out in crypto instead of fiat, but it's still somebody's having to pull that money out of their wallet and send it to somebody
Feed
else's
it.
wallet
Right. Yeah.
and feed the system. And what happens when they stop feeding the system? Whereas with Hive, you have the reward pool at the base layer that's spelled out for the next, whatever years, how many decades of where the inflation rate is. And it's a different model. Will it become a more successful model? Well, time will tell. But so I mean, that's where I think what I know and what I see, however limited that is with CTP and with affiliate marketing and with online businesses, I see a rewriting of the business model.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's a positive because that's where disruption comes from. Now, I don't know if you'll disrupt everything, but you have the potential to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very important.
And this is, I'm trying not to turn this into the look what we're doing at CTP hour, but you know what? Whatever. The one of our platforms, we got a funnel that's called Start Earning Today. And what that does is takes people through a step-by-step guide on changing their everyday activities into blockchain or crypto related ones. So don't go to Google, go to pre-search. Start using pre-search for your searches. Don't go to Medium. Start using Peak D. Start using Hive blog. Don't even one of the bonus ones was don't go to Twitter, go to Noise Cache, but we're going to redo that into don't go to Twitter, go to Threads. I mean, so it's the like you said, will people adopt this? Will they come en masse? Who knows? But the options are there. That's what's so important for entrepreneurs, for people. Like, yeah, you can go to Google, you can go to Facebook, you can go continue to put money in these guys' pockets. And yeah, that's where your friends are. That's where Grandma Betty is sharing her recipes with her family on Facebook. I get it. They're not on Hive yet. I get it. It's easier to go to Google than pre-search. I get it. It's easier to go to Twitter and watch Elon compared to watching Cal talk about crypto on Threads. I mean, I get it, but the options are there. And that's what's got me fired up each and every day working on Hive, because the options are there. And it comes back to onboarding, of course, and that's beating a dead horse, but they're there, man. Options are there. People just got to stop being lazy and start looking at this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we've been beating this for 222 episodes or whatever we're on, and we're going to keep beating it. I mean, it's, why are you sitting on Twitter? Why are you sitting on Facebook? Why are you making those YouTube videos? Why are you writing those Substack or Medium blog posts? I mean, why? What do you get out of it? And, it's the same thing. Why are you on that damn link exchange? When you can come to CTPX, and I don't care if you over your first month earn 40 or 50 CTP, which is not a lot of money in USD terms, but it's still probably more than you're going to make on most of those types of sites over your first month. I mean, it just is. And it's the other thing is, you write a Medium post, what do you make off of it?
Yeah.
You write a post on Peak D, okay, you may not get $10, but if you get 10 cents, you're ahead of the game, because if you're over on Medium, you're not getting it. And like you said, part of your training always has been create content. That's how people get to know you, engage. And again, on Hive, guess what you get rewarded for? Your content to some way, in some form or another.
Dude, this is going to turn into a rant, man, and I'm trying not to, but like, one of the campaigns we've been running is showing people that we will reward you for taking action in CTP. Like, we have campaigns in CTPX, like, put your blog post out. The CTP Talk account has got delegation out the yin yang right now and continues to grow and grow and grow. And we're sitting there giving 100% upvotes to people because there's not a lot of people doing it. So we have upvotes to give out. What's it going to take, man? And this is not just a CTPX thing. This is a Hive thing in general, online business, whatever. We can lump it all together. What's it going to take for people to actually to get off of their hands, like that's underneath their butt, and get to work? Because I really want to distribute the token. I really do. But I have to give 100% votes out to people, because there's only 3 or 4 people that are actually doing that out of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that are in CTPX. What's it going to do?
Well, there's 2 questions there. The first one, or there's 2 pieces in my answer. I sent out a tweet today that talked about Speak Network.
Yep.
I just basically said, watch this. They are decentralizing cloud. And so I think the first thing you have to promote, if you're Web3, is disruption. And yes, I know it's an overused term. Yes, I know it's kind of like the metaverse was a couple years ago. But disruption is something people understand. CTP to me, if I was branding it, is I would brand it as disrupting online business, online marketing, affiliate marketing. We're disrupting it all. We're changing the business model completely and totally. And this is where it's at. The second portion of your question, I think, applies to humanity.
Right.
And my basic view of humanity is most people are content being slaves.
Mm.
They are going to bitch and moan about it. They'll complain about it. They'll want it. They'll want another way, but they won't do shit. And we see it on Hive all the time. And I think that's a microcosm for society. You tell somebody what to do on Hive, they don't do it. They give you fucking excuses.
Mm.
Well, guess what? Go keep getting up every morning, going to your job, working for a guy or a girl you can't stand, be underpaid, be abused and used by your company because that's what companies do, and stay in your life.
Right.
And sit there and complain that you don't have time to do this, don't have time to do that. Well, guess what? Nobody has. I heard something said when you're talking about this stuff, it's always part time. I work part time. It's not in my
Mm.
spare time because nobody has spare time. Everybody has to deal with the kids. Everybody has to deal with the house. Everybody has to deal with the bills. Everybody has to deal with the work and the family and the in laws and medical issues and everything life throws at us. We all have life issues.
Yep.
The difference is who's going to go and get after it. And I make my views on Elon very clear. Oh well, he's worth a couple $100 billion. Yeah, and you know what? The guy's working 120 hours a week.
Yeah.
How many people can say they work 120 hours a week? Very few. Why is he working 125 hours a week? Not because he needs the money, because he's driven. And people say, well, I don't want to live that type of life. Fine. Okay. You don't want to live that type of life. Most people are cut out to go get a job. And that's really what it comes down to. And I've drawn that conclusion, John, over the last few years, being on Hive, where you give people the opportunities and they don't want to do it. They just simply don't want to do it. Why does a guy like Jimmy Adamas stand out? Because there's so few Jimmy Adamases. If there was 500 people who attack Hive like he does and was everywhere, you wouldn't even notice Jimmy Adamas because he'd just be one of the many.
Well, it would also help Hive out as a whole, I think, too.
Of course it would.
Like,
of course it would.
We already talked about this is where it comes back to where I'm always talking about being a product of your product. I mean, it was funny. We were talking about my post last night where I was talking about the verified blue check mark and stuff, and people were like, I just use Twitter to promote Hive. I'm like, pretty much same here. I mean, that's literally what I do. And so I'm thinking, what if we had 500 of us? And I'm not talking about just going out and spamming Hive, but like actually talking to people, showing people that we're using this stuff every day, that it's there, that Threads is a better option, that 3Speak is a better option. Like, if we had 500 Jimmys.
Well, and the problem is, why are you out on Twitter trying to promote Hive? Oh, well, to bring people over on Hive. And what do they find? Crickets.
Yeah.
What the fuck do they find? Crickets. Send them to Threads. Oh, well, the Threads haven't changed in an hour. You send them to they post an article, nobody responds. So, it's like all these people say, well, we want to bring people to Hive, but it's like, well, again, if you're a dead site, you're a dead site. Then they leave and they never return.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the tweets that have Hive in them, and I think it's like 5,000 a day. Well, why isn't that 5,000 on Hive?
What is that? What is it that stops people from doing that?
Well, you said what's up. I mean, she posts on Threads once in a while, but she's always on Twitter. Addicted's living on Twitter and in Discord. He never posts on Threads.
But a lot of that, like for WhatsApp, for example, she's not always talking crypto stuff, and I get that Threads is
No,
much
she
more, but you know,
she rarely talks crypto, but I mean, it's what the fuck you doing on Twitter?
mm,
I mean, are you a big fan of? I mean, I'm a big fan of Elon Musk. I want Elon Musk to have $400 billion out of Tesla. I don't give a fuck if he makes a dime out of Twitter. Not my money. I don't give a shit. I
right.
don't want. I mean, if he's successful with Twitter, not successful with Twitter, I could care less. But
But there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason why. Like, is it layer two? Like, if Neo just put in Vim like Dbuzz. Like, if Dbuzz had a way to do it like Threads did, and it was layer one, would more of Hive use that? Is there still this drama with layer two versus layer one, like on Hive? Like,
well, but you don't see people commenting on blog posts, which is layer one.
right.
It's just they write their posts to get paid, and that's it. They don't engage. There's no engagement. It's like they'll sit in Discord all day, but that's it. They'll sit on Twitter all day. So I mean, obviously there's still a layer one, layer two situation going on, but I think when you look at the Web two versus Hive versus Web three, um, that has nothing to do with layer one, layer two. I don't think it has anything to do with it because the layer one stuff isn't utilized either. I mean, people write their blog posts and they don't even write. These people don't even write Medium posts.
Yeah.
Peak D and Hive, for the most part, is not like Medium. Medium, you have serious writers, you have serious content creators. You don't have that for the most part on Hive. You don't have that on Leo Finance. Look at most of the posts; they're shit.
Mm.
I mean, it's like you people have been fucking microblogging for 3 years. What are you kidding? I mean, you just put them in the long form content section. 150 words, that's not a post. I mean, that's garbage, but
Yeah.
that's what people do. So, and I'm all for posting a chart that you marked up and look, Hive or Bitcoin or Litecoin or General Motors or whatever is going to break out. Great, throw that up. That's what Thread's for. You want to put a picture of your dog up there? Great, that's what Thread's for. I love it.
Right.
You want to put up a meme? Great, that's what Thread's for. I love it. You want to write a couple thread casts? Put it together 250 words on, how to improve your affiliate marketing results. Great, do it. That's what Threads is for. But you could do the same shit on Twitter.
I think there's two things, and Neo, I see your comment on Vim because I think that's a huge point we're going to bring up now. But what is mind blowing to me, and this is we've said this before, but I truly believe this. I think when the masses do come, and I firmly believe that they will come, it's a lot easier now to stick out by making comments and making posts and engaging now than it will be in a couple of years from now. So now is the time to be active on chain. And yeah, you might only be talking to 5 or 6 people in a circle, and it doesn't have the reach that Twitter does. But I think personally the opportunity is here because no one's looking here yet. It's really easy to stick out from the crowd here. Very easy. But this is what Neil brought up too, man. And I think this is huge. It's if you look across the world, majority of the people do not engage with anything on a desktop. It's all phone. It's all mobile. One of the reasons Ecency is one of the most popular front ends on Hive is because of its mobile app. Do we need, as app developers, business builders, do we need to put more of an emphasis on mobile and stop, I'm not going to say lollygagging, but really putting it as not a priority? Like this
No,
is
because I agree with Cal. I think the world is waking up, and again, I think Twitter drove this point home for developers. You're an asshole if you make uh, mobile only. You're a total asshole as a developer. And we got this from D-Buzz, actually, was the first one who I heard mention it. And he talking about how he's building everything as a progressive web app.
Mm-hmm.
And why is he doing that? He's doing that because it's mobile friendly, but you don't have to access it through the Google
App
Store or
stores.
the App
Mhm.
Store. And when Apple threatened to kick Twitter off, leaving aside the Epic Game stuff, which made a lot of news, when Apple threatened to kick Twitter off, I think that woke people up and said this company has way too much power.
Mm.
And I think right now people are realizing Cal backed off from his. I mean, he still has the mobile app. He doesn't have it on iOS because it's been 5 months trying to get it approved. But he does have an Android app. But I think that these developers are now focusing more on these progressive web apps that you don't need to download from the App Store because they can whack you at any time, and there's just too much vulnerability there. But yes, certainly, you know, if you don't have your website uh, viewable on mobile, you're screwed,
Mm.
and that's a problem. So, but I think these progressive web apps are going to become more popular as more developers turn away from, giving Apple and Google that much power, and of course having to give them a cut if you charge anything. So, I mean, from what I understand on iOS, if you want a blue check mark from Twitter, it costs you $12 a month because Apple gets, it's not $8 or $9 because Apple takes their 30 or 35%.
Oh, it's definitely not 7 or 8 for me. Like in Canada, it's around 12 or something.
Well, but
Mhm.
you're on iOS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're you're paying you're paying Elon for your blue check, but you're also paying Tim Cook. You're paying Apple.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, Apple, they're sneaky, man, because
Apple gets $3 a month from you.
oh,
Elon gets
I don't
eight.
pay. I don't pay for blue check marks anymore.
Oh
But
well, but if you did,
they're sneaky because all of a sudden I'll get an email that says that my credit card has been charged for fees I didn't even know existed. Good luck trying to find those too. It's not the easiest thing. It's not like they say this is what you were charged for. They just charge you and they say Apple Inc. charged you. Not
yeah,
what it's for. Now you can go and find it, but it's all fees. It's
yeah.
yeah, Team Android. It's like don't get me wrong, I love the Apple environment, but
Well, Android is just a different leopard of a leopard with different spots. I mean, it's again okay. They're not quite as restrictive as Apple, but that's given Google a lot of power, and
right,
the last thing Google needs is more freaking power.
right.
So, it's all in the mindset of decentralization and sovereignty. How can you have, think of it, how can you have a sovereign app with a tied to a wallet system that's decentralized and yet your entire product is controlled by Apple? And if they wipe you, if they say, sorry, we're dumping you,
Right.
you're pretty much wiped out. I mean, it's counterintuitive to what we're trying to do here. So,
Right. But like these progressive web apps, they're still not the focus for a lot of this stuff in crypto. Like at least I don't see it. I don't see a big emphasis on it. Like I hear D-Buzz talk about it a lot. I hear but all these new games that pop up on Hive every month or so, none of them mention mobile at all. Mobile friendly,
well,
like
I
nothing.
think games, if you're building any type of game, that gets too heavy for mobile. I mean, unless you build something very basic, I would think.
Well,
Uh, you,
yeah, but like
a Cyber X you couldn't run on mobile.
no, I know, but I mean, a lot of these idle games are very low resources needed, and like even
Yeah, I mean,
Splinterland's mobile app is very functional. I used it countless times when I was into Splinterlands, but then again, they have developers and money and
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm not saying that mobile should be overlooked, and people, because Neil's right. The more of the internet traffic, and this has been true for a couple of years, so I imagine it's only going to keep growing. But I think it was in like 2019 when more than 50% of the internet access was done on mobile. So
right.
it's only growing. So you have to have some type of mobile friendly uh, products that you offer.
Yeah,
And you're right, some of these mobile games are probably shooting themselves in the foot if they are not focusing on mobile and they're saying, okay, we built this game on desktop. Well, if you do that, it looks like shit on mobile
right.
and it's very hard to see. Now, if they take the desktop and they adjust it and build the size for mobile, then that's a different story. But you're probably my sense is you're saying they don't do that. It's just
Yeah,
here's a desktop, you use your browser, log in on your phone, and it's like you can't see anything.
yeah,
I mean, I used views on mobile, no problem. I used that through Keychain, it was no
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
I've used CTPX through mobile, no problem.
Mhm.
Um, so it's not like some of this stuff can't be done.
Right. Yeah, it's just I'm thinking like, because we always say that, the solution to all these problems is more users. And I think that if there was this emphasis on keeping things mobile friendly, not necessarily having your own native apps or anything like that, because like you said, I agree, way too much power with Google and Apple to shut you down if they feel like it. But like I would like to see a lot more of it. I'm sitting here, when I got apps and I need to our stuff is mobile friendly, but it's not like, you wouldn't I wouldn't recommend sitting there on your phone and writing out an email on listeners and sending it out. Like I just, it's much more of a desktop application, but you know,
Yeah, but there's people who write. I mean, you probably wouldn't recommend writing an email out of Gmail on
right.
mobile,
Yeah.
but there's people who write emails. There's people who do their blog posts on mobile.
Oh
So
yeah. Bring back
those
Blackberries, man.
people are accustomed to it. So to them, right now, to the listener's email is not a big deal. To you or I, who use the desktop and use our laptops or our PCs,
Mhm.
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's what they're used to. That's what they've come in with. Certainly, I agree with Neil 1,000%. I agree with you. Developers should be focused, but I don't know. Again, if Ecency was killing it, and Ecency was signing up people left and right, and Ecency was getting 150, 200 new users a day. If Ecency had 25,000 or 50,000 users a month or
Right.
a day or whatever, then okay, I'd say okay, yeah, but their numbers are just as bad as everybody else. In fact, they got less users than Leo Finance has.
Mm.
And again, I mean, the Leo Finance app I've used through Keychain, so I'm not even using the mobile app. But I think it's certainly part of the equation, but I don't know if it's a major drawback right now. I think
Mm.
there's other issues, and I quite honestly don't know what the other issues are, other than people just don't want to change.
Yeah.
That's how powerful the network effect is, because you know people can sit on Twitter all day and chit chat,
Mm. Mm.
or Discord and chit chat.
Yes, there. Eliana said she changed to Team Ecency. Um, I, they get paid. The proposal system, they're getting big money. They're getting big money for.
Yeah, well, Marky a couple weeks ago told us what his views are on the proposal system and some of the things we fund.
Yeah,
It's at the end of the day, it's we have to take a look at that, and you know, I, we kind of talked about the other night with the reputation score.
mm,
Are you just trying to bilk this place? Are you just trying to bilk it out of money? And and I don't care whether it's a developer, whether it's a content creator, whether it's whatever, witnesses. I mean, are you just trying to bilk it, or are you actually giving to the ecosystem?
Right.
And there's a lot of people who give blood, sweat, and tears to the ecosystem. They're not necessarily content creators. They're writing codes. They're designing apps. They're doing a lot of different things. Um, but then there's a lot who aren't.
Yeah.
And why aren't those people? Why aren't the masses doing it? Why do you only see this out of Sucre? Why do you see it out of the Cuban community? Yet out of the developed world, out of Western Europe and North America primarily, United States and Canada, I should be specific. You don't see this. You know,
Because I think they see it as this is life changing technology. And we use that term a lot, but it really does change lives. Here it's
yeah,
just like you said, it's like, oh, get my little upvotes, make, $5 on a post. To us, it's
yeah,
whatever. But to them,
yeah,
it's life
and
changing.
I would agree with you that that's the difference is the level of it's a much lower bar when you're in Venezuela or uh, Ecuador or Colombia or Cuba, but also like we talk about, are you going to become a multimillionaire out of your job? Now, some people the answer is yes.
Yeah,
Okay, great. Now I was never in a job like that. You were never in a job like that. But could you become a multimillionaire out of Hive? Yes, you can. And people say, "Oh, bullshit! All downvotes." You yourself, okay, market pullback. You yourself became a millionaire off Splinterlands cards
yeah,
at one point in your life.
yeah.
Now, market pullback, you decide to go in a different direction. But if you had held that pack and you kept adding to it, is there a potential that you could get there again? Conceivable.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
Yeah,
that's one game.
yeah,
What happens if Hive goes to $10? Well, if you have 100,000 Hive, you're a millionaire. Well, that's a lot of Hive. Yeah, it is. But if you have 10,000 Hive or 20,000 Hive, now you got 100 or $200,000.
that's a
And then
lot.
what
Yeah,
happens if CTP takes off? What happens if Leo takes off? What happens if
exactly.
Rising Star takes off? What happens if CyberX takes off? You know, uh, I mean, I said on Tuesday, John and I, after Bob the Builder was on, we bought more LVL.
Yep.
Now, John and I don't pay much attention. I could tell you what the price of LVL is. I don't think you have any idea what the price of LVL is. We don't follow the game very closely. But you know what? I got enough LVL. If what Bob the Builder says is true, and then this ends up in multiple games, and I mean, I won't have $1 million in LVL. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
it goes to an insane number, but could I end up with 10 or 20 or 30 grand in LVL? Yeah, it's possible.
Mm.
So this is where I mean, it's like, how do people not see this? Yes, these are lottery tickets. And I'm not going to go and chase every project out there because, as we talked about Tuesday, you just get too distracted. You can't focus your time. But to have a couple lottery tickets and to go all in on something like Hive, Leo, CTP, Bitcoin. I mean, that's one thing the Bitcoin maxis get right. If they're right, they're going to be major, major, major wealth. They
Yeah.
go all in. Okay, good. You
That's
know, if you make a decision, do it. Ethereum.
mm,
Hey, go all in. If you believe in Ethereum, or if you want, get yourself a couple hundred Ethereum and you're in position to do that. I mean, that thing could be 10, 15, 20, $50,000 at some point. I have no idea.
yeah.
But that's the difference. And on Hive, we know you don't have to buy only. You can do this stuff through your efforts, through your action, through your activities, through your engagement.
Yeah.
Why don't people see it, John Go? I don't know.
Folks, thank you for tuning in for another episode, and hopefully we will have the answer for you next week. If not, we'll just keep showing up. On behalf of Task, I'm John Go. You guys have a great weekend. We'll see you on Tuesday. Toodles.